So let's get started. It's gone the top of the hour. I'll just let a couple more people in. Welcome to this session. This is our business tutorials, and I'm assuming that you're coming here because you have a bit of a business idea, or you'd like to think about ways to explore how to create a livelihood from your permaculture education. And so we're running this series of tutorials, so interactive tutorials to dive into a whole lot of different dimensions of this work. And today we're focusing on looking at marketing and communication themes. And I know some of you have been exploring this with me in Share Permaculture. So that's been really fantastic to have those conversations over there. If you're wanting to dive more deeply into this aspect, then I highly recommend you join us over in those as well. We've been having some great conversations about a whole range of different topics there. I'm just going to try and open up my chat so I can see that too. All right, lovely. So welcome everyone who's just joining. I've just let you know what this session's about, and also that if you could let everyone know where you're calling in from, that would be wonderful. So in this session today, I really wanted to begin with the communications side of things first, and then head towards the marketing. But before we even do that though, what I was thinking was just to create a bit of an outline of what is marketing and communication anyway, and how does it fit with what we're doing. As I see it, basically, if we're wanting to make a livelihood from doing this work, we need to start to understand how to engage with this, and how to engage with it in a really authentic and permaculture way, something that actually feels good. It doesn't feel salesy or whatever, but actually will let people know what it is that you've got to offer. So basically what I see it as, in simple terms, the marketing is your strategy for sharing, like how you actually pull together all of the different ideas, and the communication is the narrative. What is the story that you're sharing, and what is the texture of the story that you're sharing, and how you get that out? So, like, in simple terms, there's lots of there's whole degrees and masters and programs in this, but what I'm wanting to do is to sort of dive into the simple part of getting started with this. And I'd love if anyone has deep experience in this too, or even any experience in it, to bring that in as we're going through this session today. So we'll be together for an hour here, and I hope it will be as interactive as we can. The first thing I'd like to do, just to get our juices flowing with this, is to explore, what is your business idea? And when I say your business idea, I'm talking specifically here about your permaculture education business. What is it? Who are you doing it for? Or who do you think you like? It may be an idea, it may be something you're already doing. So what is it? What does it look like? Who is it that you're offering it to? Where are you doing it? And maybe what are some of your financial goals? Is this something that you're wanting to be creating as your main gig? Is what you do as a full-time thing that supports you? Is it something you want to just do as a part-time around the edges? Or is it something that is maybe you wanted to raise money for a community project? So, like, just really being clear about the financial goals. So what I'm going to do, we've got quite a lot of people now, and so that we actually get a chance to have a chat, I'm just going to open up some breakout rooms now, so that we've got maybe two or three people in the room. Can you just give each person about 2 minutes each to articulate this? So grab a pen and just write down these points. And actually, there's a lot of things that I'm wanting to work through in this session, so it's really good to maybe have your pen and paper ready, maybe a bit of a book, and write down these questions and start to fill them out and map them up. Lexi, okay, type instead. Yes, so whoever ends up in a room with Lexi, she doesn't have a microphone, but she's definitely, you can type backwards and forwards to her. All right, so what is it you're doing? Who are you doing it for? Where are you doing it? And what are your financial goals? So let's start there. There's lots more questions that I'd like to explore. So if you can, as clearly, so see this as a way of also thinking about how you might pitch your idea or shape your idea, something as clear as possible, to the others in the room. Okay, I'm going to create those rooms and send you off. So we'll have 2 minutes per group. So I might just give you 7 minutes, just enough to sort of swap over between as well. So if someone could just keep you on track with that in your group as well. All righty, let's go. Hi, welcome back. Sorry, I gave you an extra minute. I got jammed in my closing of the room. I don't know what happened to Zoom, but it wouldn't let me close the room, so you got an extra minute there. So I don't want us to feedback from the groups at this point, but I hope that was useful, and I'd really love if you had the... This meeting is being recorded. I'd love if you have the chance to think about maybe dropping in a couple of ideas that came up or things that you were presenting, maybe just into the chat so people can see what's going on in some other groups. What are some key business ideas that you are thinking about? But at this point, what I wanted to do was to ask you to consider this question. So hang on a tick. I'm just going to do a little quick muting. There we go. I wonder, you have this business idea and you talked about what and where and who for, but why is it that you're doing it? I want you to really think quite specifically about why are you offering. So you might have an idea about sort of this thing's going on in the world and there's a big picture issues or something, but what is it that connects with you? What is your unique position on offering this type of permaculture education? So some of the questions that I'd like you to ask, when we're just going to pop out again now, and these are the questions that I'd like you to explore together. So what is your authentic big picture why? And perhaps you could ask it around the framing of what concerns and interests you most. And because we all come from different particular frames, and this is important in terms of the communication. When you're trying to set up your communication strategy or share out into the world what it is that you're offering, you need to be really clear about where it's coming from with you, because that will then attract the kind of people that you're actually seeking to work with. If your messaging is off, you'll actually be attracting people who are not quite aligned with what you're doing. So being clear about this is so, so important. And you can keep shaping it forever, but I think it's good to sort of start, with a really clear statement of this. So what is your authentic big picture why? What concerns and interests you most? Why do you even care about it? What is it that when you start to talk with something, like that's when you feel yourself coming alive, or when you get that bit of a sparkle in your eye, where your heart just kind of skips a beat about something, when you are moved, like physically moved, emotionally moved by something, why do you care about those things, and how does that connect with this big picture why? And then how does that connect with the offer that you're wanting to put out into the world? So if you're saying, I want to run a series of permaculture workshops, how does that connect with your why, your big picture why? So this is where I'd like us to take the conversation when we pop out now. So let me just reopen the rooms. I'm going to find the breakout rooms, the panels, breakout rooms. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to, do you want to stay in the rooms, or do you want me to recreate the rooms? Give me a open your mics and just say recreate or stay in the rooms. What do you think? You've kind of talked a bit, people, already.
Stay in the room.
Stay.
All right.
Stay.
Okay. All right. There we go. I'm going to open up the rooms, and this time, because we've got I'll drop these questions into that, or take a screenshot of it, or take a photograph of it or something, so you have it. I'll just leave it there for a minute before I do the breakout room, so you can respond to these questions. So I think we need maybe a couple more minutes in this session to be able to articulate this a little bit more. And okay, has everyone got a screenshot of it? Anyone need any more time? Okay, all good. Okay, so I'll open up the rooms now. Just make sure to click the link. Welcome back, everyone. I'm just going to stop sharing for a minute, and invite anyone who'd like to jump in and share a little bit about.
This is being recorded.
Oh, sorry. What is it? What is your big idea, and what is your big why? Fleur, go ahead.
I just want to, in our group, one of the biggest things we come across was why we're doing it. And they, most of them come up with community to help the younger generations. So it was a big overview of what it was. So, and this is why they're doing it for, and then one other lady was involved in the plants and things like that, and helping the future of the plants and doing it naturally. So I felt that was a sort of thing I would like to put across. So yeah.
Thank you, Fleur.
Okay.
Does anyone want to articulate their big why, or their big idea for a business in permaculture education? Has anyone got a clear grasp on that? Or it doesn't have to be clear. Honestly, it doesn't. A sense of it. I know many of you do. Some of you are still playing around with it, but it's fun to kind of keep playing here. Maybe you could get some extra insights or feedback from people. So does anyone want to be brave? Caitlin, go ahead.
Hello, everybody. Thought I might as well start the conversation. So I'm working with a friend of mine, Ange, and we are currently creating a course which is aimed at educators or alternative educators, parents, and sort of like anyone who's environmentally minded. And it's a course for basically teaching people how to share permaculture with the younger generation, so like 6 to 12-year-olds, for instance. And it's an online course because we figured you have a way to reach a much broader audience, whether you are a stay-at-home mom or you're a primary school teacher or wherever you may be, as opposed to just doing something locally. We also figured that we could probably make it more affordable that way, and we could offer scholarships to people that are in more disadvantaged areas and other parts of the planet. And financially, obviously, the dream is to, for me, my life, like I know that my life's work will be influenced by permaculture. And so the dream is obviously to be able to meet my obligations doing the work that I love. I'm not quite there yet, but you have to start somewhere. And I think for me, like my personal big picture why is this so important to me is I feel this incredible, like it makes me want to cry, a sense of sadness and disconnection. I'm getting teary. And it's, I've had my own struggles with mental health, with disconnection from community, from family, from myself. And permaculture, natural building, all of these sort of things have offered me a way to reconnect with that sense of belonging to the universe. It's also offered me a way of working through my struggles, of getting physical, of getting over my social anxiety and branching out into new spaces and creating beautiful things with amazing people. And I just think that, for anybody really, like anybody that wants to know how to make a difference, how to get involved, how to do something, to not feel like you're standing alone and isolated, but to connect to, I'm going to use your word more, myceliate. And I just feel like it's incredibly important. So anything that I can do to work within this space to facilitate that and to help other people come along on the journey, I'm going to be sticking my hand up for it. So that's me.
Caitlin, I don't know if there's not anyone in this room who hasn't got a little bit of goosebumps or sense of really deep connection with what you just said then. Honestly, that was so authentic, so you. That big picture why just flooded through that little box that you're sitting in here on my screen and touched me and touched so many other people. I was watching other people too. It touched us all. Now that is what you need to bottle, because that is you. That is you speaking from your heart about why this is so important to be doing this, and why. And when you speak that out from your heart, you will attract the people that go, right, I resonate with what she's doing. That's why I'm here because of that too. There might be some people go, that's not really me, but that's fine. You don't want them. You want the people who go, yeah, actually, I really like what she's saying. I really like her why. I like that she's so deeply committed to this and has spoken from that place of, deep care and love for the planet, and saying how much of a difference approaching it in this way has made to you and other people that you know. So the first thing that jumped into my mind as you were speaking is you've got to get on camera and say that. Don't try and write it. You can try and write it, but you need to speak it. I don't know if you do reels, but maybe that's it. You don't have to say the whole thing, but maybe you just say a few things about it, and then another few days you might say something else about it, and you might just share, I've just been thinking about how and you just bring little bits of it so people get to see you, they get to understand you, and then your offering is here, but they get to know you. And that, I think, would be incredibly powerful communication tool about what it is that your education offer is, which then becomes this natural, they call organic marketing. You don't need to pay for marketing because you're getting your voice out there. And so then if you share that through, into, children's permaculture groups or homeschooling groups or just generally permaculture groups, and say, this is what we're doing, this is why I'm doing it. And then, invite people, like if this speaks to you and people would like to get involved, please share it. Boom. That's it. Don't have to get much more fancier than that. And what I want to encourage everyone to do is to really tap into that sense of that authenticity. And you will attract and invite the people who that makes sense to. Yeah. Thanks, Caitlin, for sharing.
Thanks, Maura.
I wonder if anyone else wants to drop in and have a go, or can we, shall we move on to the next question? Stacey, go ahead.
Sorry, Fossil's just throwing her food thing around. If it's a bit noisy, I don't know if I should do this, but I'd really like to put Doris in it, because I think you had a bit of an aha moment when we were talking, and I think it'd be lovely for you to share. Do you mind?
Oh, thank you, Stacey. Hello, everyone. For me, I said, when Morag asked, what's your big picture? So for me, the big picture is the big picture. That's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to do. So I'm very passionate about regeneration, and permaculture is very much part of that. And I'm passionate about regenerative development and design. And yes, and I think what I want to become is like a regenerative consultant, practitioner. And this would be more for communities or organizations. And while everything like on a personal level, home level is so important, and I want to do this in my personal space, but for my business, I would rather like to have it on a different, well, if you want to call it level, a different, but I still don't know how to go about it. So there's a lot of learning, but yeah, I'm just realizing that as well.
Yeah, great.
And also it would be more maybe in an online space. I still don't know how to go about it, but yeah, but just consulting organizations and communities in the big picture.
Yeah, great. And thank you, Stacey, for dropping Doris in. Thank you, Doris, for rising to the occasion. And so I'm hearing a number of people talking about using the online space as an educational platform, which is something we've been thrown into quite substantially over the last few years and have continued on using. I absolutely love the possibilities of connecting with all of you from all around the world all the time and bringing in, different people. I wonder whether it's something that you would like some more input on in terms of how to do education online, because I'm mostly been focusing on the course about, okay, so as an educator in situ as opposed to an educator online, because there's a whole lot of different kind of contexts and processes and structures and information that can help with that. So if yeah, that's right, John. Yeah, I think you can create really, really close communities and support networks and inspirational moments through these. I know I've definitely, and like we felt Caitlin's, heartfelt sharing before. The feeling can come through when we allow ourselves to connect and to share and to really deeply listen. Yeah. So all right, well, maybe I need to think about that, because I think with the online there's great possibilities, particularly when you're talking about wanting to reach out and connect at like that systemic level, the regenerative business level, that is something you can do quite substantial. I was just thinking the other day, I've got a friend who's staying over at the moment who runs the Community Gardens Australia. He's just come back from a Churchill Fellowship. Gavin Hardy, you might have met him on one of the masterclasses that I ran. And we're talking about the need for doing professional development, permaculture type of professional development for, say, landscape architects, for planners, for urban designers. And so that could actually be permaculture education that you go to a place, or it could be something you could offer as a series of forums for the design professionals. So this is permaculture education as well. You can do it in a garden, or you can do it for, like, how can an architect weave permaculture into their architectural practice, and how can we start to shift the dial on how architecture happens using this lens, and bring a whole lot of architects together to talk about that and allow the possibilities of getting, professional credit points for that. And so I wonder, in what worlds do you exist that you can be thinking about? It could either be community-based, or it could be industry-based. It could be, your mind can go to all different dimensions of this. So using the online platforms can be really beneficial for that. So let's explore that a bit more. I wonder if there's any one other person who'd like to just jump in now to share any big picture wise or your business ideas. Anyone want to articulate that? Okay. Oh, go ahead, Daniela. Hello, Daniela.
Hi, hello. Okay, I want to become the go-to person in this area for everybody who has some kind of wasteland and wants to develop that into a permaculture system with a group of people, be it a company that has a production site and want to do some then a team building event or something and convert it into a food forest, or schools, kindergartens, or community gardens. This is what I want to do. My why is that I want to give as many people as possible the permaculture perspective. The idea of looking around, go, oh, there's a potential. Whether be it a windowsill, a balcony, some guerrilla gardening, whatever. That's what I want to do, because I think it'll be necessary for reasons.
Thank you, Danielle. And I really like how clearly, did you hear how clear and direct she was? Like, I want to do this with these people for this and that. Like, if you can say that, what you're planning to do in that sentence. So if you, it's the old thing that people always ask you in marketing things. So we've got an elevator pitch. So if you bump into an old friend you haven't seen for ages, you're going up a flight of stairs, let's say, and they ask you, oh, so what are you up to these days? Daniela could have finished that by the time she got to the top of the first flight of stairs and then leave space for people to ask questions. If you can articulate that clearly, and I know Daniela has been doing a lot of work on this to get to that essence of what it is she's doing and who it's for, and has taken a long time finding her way through all those things, moving things aside, trying things out, and then she's just narrowed it down into that beautiful statement that has clarity, which gives her the possibilities to then know, all right, I need this, no, don't need that, I need this, and she can start to bring things together, and people get to know her. I want to be the go-to person for this. And so because she's stating with that confidence that that's what she's here for, that's her purpose, that she will become the go-to person, because that's what she's putting out into the world, and she will attract that. And I think that clarity of languaging, the clarity of purpose is really important. Because yes, permaculture can be for everyone. Yes, permaculture can be applied in any context, but what's your context? What's your purpose? What makes your heart sing? And what do you think has the possibility of becoming an enterprise if that's what you're looking to do? So that's what's really important. And that's what we're talking about here. So thank you, Daniela, for really just drilling down into that beautiful little statement there. It's not a little statement, it's a big statement, but in a short time is what I meant. Yeah, that's great. All right. Okay. So I want to dive in and share my screen again. And let's see. Okay. All right. So we talked about the why are you offering it? And let's see. Okay. This bit here, we've kind of been touching a bit on this, but I think this is really important. And we talked a bit about this. Any of you came to the masterclass on storytelling? I don't know if you remember this bit. It was all about your origin story. Now, as a founder of your business, of your enterprise, of your project, you're a founder, it's all wrapped up with you. And this is just my experience, but I find it's really important that you put yourself forward with this. It's really hard. Do you know, sometimes, I don't know about you, but if I find a website that's really great and I'm really interested in what they're saying, I dive deep to find who is it? Who's the person who's behind this? What do they look like? What's their backstory? Why are they doing this? I don't know if it's just me, but I go searching for that. I look in the about bit. Who's this person who's writing this thing? It gives me more of a context to be able to go, oh, so that's where it's coming from. Right. I relate to that. Or I kind of say, oh, that's maybe over here. I really like it, but it's maybe not exactly what. So what's your story and how can you share that as well? So, and I'm not asking you to do a big, bear all your life story, but what is the story that you need to share about this that's important? And how can people relate to you in particular? So, okay, they might relate to permaculture, but, like I said, there's millions of people who have done permaculture and there's permaculture all over the place, but what is it's going to draw them to you in particular and what you're offering? And so some of the questions that I like to ask myself and others that I work with is, what is it that sparked your fascination and curiosity? What do you remember as being the first thing that ever turned you on to all this stuff, like a spark moment? Actually, maybe I should have what things sparked you, because I can point to many different things. And actually, now this is perhaps making it a bit more complicated, but depending on which realm I am talking into, I might share a different spark. Like if it's more, if it's more sort of a community-based project that has more of a spiritual awareness, I might talk about the time when I was sitting by a lake and I just literally felt sparks coming out of my head. I would not be saying that if I was at the university hall. I might be talking about how my mind was absolutely transformed by the time I spent at Schumacher College, for example. Or if I was talking about community-based waste strategies, I'll tell the story about when as a kid, as a primary schooler, I remember having this class at school where they talked about mountains of rubbish. And I remember just feeling infuriated that the adults in the world could possibly be responsible for creating so much waste in the world. And I came home and I was like the waste warrior at home, and I would make sure that all the rubbish was sorted well, and I would make sure everything was squished, and I took everything out that wasn't meant to be composted and got it all happening. I must have been like, I don't know, 7 or something. And that story goes with something else. So what at each of these different spark moments, I remember, like, they're things that have switched me on. But there's multiple stories that have switched you on and that continue to switch you on. And so noticing that in you, those moments, those stories that you have within you that might be relatable to someone else's experience, and which one or ones of those are relevant. You have lots of stories, but which ones are relevant to what you're trying to share in this program that you're communicating? So do you get my point? Like, notice all those different things, and maybe just keep remembering all those sparky moments, but make the ones, share the ones that are relevant. I also really like to consider the thing, like, consider who is it that's inspired me over the years? Because the stories there about the relationship you have, or what it was that someone said, or an adventure you had with someone that sparked it. And so, I'm not talking about necessarily famous people. There could be your grandma, it could be a philosopher that you read, and there was a quote in that book that you read, and it just made you think and stop. And so standing on the shoulders of these people that have our ancestors, to become good ancestors ourselves, we need to respect, who's taken us on this journey and where that's come from. So yeah, bring a bit of your backstory into what brings you into this teaching moment. Why is it that you're here offering these permaculture education programs? And then part of your backstory too is also thinking about where your mind is casting forward to. So what is it that you dream of being possible? So we have the backstory, but then it's like, what's in your imagination? What has all of that led you to come to think about being the possibilities that we have in front of us to address the challenges that we face? What in your mind, when someone asks you, well, if not that, then what? What is that what? What does that look like to you? And for every single one of us in this room, it's going to be different. You'll have similarities, but there'll be that, what is that imagining that you have? So that's that second last point here. So you might want to take a screenshot of these questions, or write. I can see so many people writing down. The other one is, because I think these are really important questions to think about, to ponder, to play with over and over. The other thing at the bottom was, how do you think we can get there? So even if there was 3 or 4 people in this room who all said, oh, this is the possible future that I imagine, we all have different imaginings of how we might get there. And that is interesting to share too, because all of these things, often when you hear in marketing talks, you get told, well, work out who your avatar is, but also work out who you are and who you're representing, because you'll attract the people that you're trying to work with. So it's just being clear about you, because once you have these questions answered, or I'm not saying answered fully, like you have a response to these, you will then be able to craft your copy, which is your communications, so much more easily, because you have that clarity. Like the who, what, and the where, and the how, and what am I doing it for, and how do I imagine we might get there? Because then when you say that and people read that, or they listen to your reel or whatever it might be, they'll go, yes, yeah, I really relate to this person. That gets me excited. Another thing that I think is a really interesting question to ask when we're thinking about communicating what it is that we're about in our businesses is, what is it that we're solving, and how you can help. And I often hear in the marketing, I don't know how many marketing strategies and communication seminars I've been to, but it's always saying, okay, here's the problem and this is how you're solving it. It's a very simple kind of strategy, but it helps to bring it to a clear point. So for example, what are you solving? For example, let's go to, there was a question in the, sorry, there was a comment in the chat. Let me find where the chat's gone to. Okay. In the chat, let me just go back to a point that, okay, Joanne was saying, I'm not sure at this point. However, I really want to work with overwhelmed, busy parents concerned about climate change and biodiversity loss and don't know where to start with permaculture. Right. That is a statement of a challenge or a problem. Like there are these busy parents who are overwhelmed. That's what you're trying to help to solve. That's what you care about. That's what you are concerned about. That you have compassion for that group of people, and you are motivated to act, create a program to support them. So you can say, this is what I'm trying to solve and help. Like, you don't say it in that language, but that's the problem. That's stated really clearly. I really thank you for dropping that in there, Joanne. And then how you can help is through the programs and the support networks or the community learning program that you're offering. So if you can be clear about that too, that's really great. And then another question is really important to keep in mind too is, how are you sharing this? So what is the language? Now, I'm always for trying to find the most simplest language. Like, I might have a whole suite of really smart language up my sleeve, but it's not necessary unless I'm maybe talking to a whole lot of other academics, about something. What is the simplest possible, clear and engaging language that you can use? And I often read back over things that I've written, and I go through and I just cross out unnecessary words. I try and actually get it to the most essential amount of words and type of languaging that I can use. So it makes it accessible. It makes it just flow. And I often speak it out too. Like, if you can, I know that written language is different from spoken language, but when you're writing this kind of thing, if you can imagine that you're just speaking, I can see Caitlin there at the moment, so I'm just going to talk to you. So I'm imagining I'm just going to speak to Caitlin, and as I'm writing this letter or sharing my program outline, I'm actually speaking to someone that I can imagine who might actually be interested in what I'm doing. And that's how I like to think about it. And how to, I mentioned about how does it meet needs, but how are you making what you're offering accessible, visible, and shareable? I'm going to talk about that in just a minute. But the other thing that I think is really important is timing and relevance. So what I mean by that is the timing for this really good? So you're going to start offering a program for adults, say, okay, I'm going to your program again, Caitlin, just because I'm seeing you there. For parents who are wanting to work in this space, are you going to offer it over the school holidays? Probably not, because parents are going to be super busy during the school holidays doing a whole lot of other stuff with the kids. If you're aiming at parents, you put it in school time when they might have actually a bit more time around available. So you think about the timing of it. Is it too close to Christmas? Is it, if it's about, gardening, you might think about when is the time to build people up to be able to do that particular thing that you're sharing. So think about your timing and also the relevance to particular topics. Maybe there's something that's coming up. Maybe there's World Food Day. And so on that day, you might run a session on food systems. So you might map out your whole year and look at where all those special international days are, and then you can actually plan a series of workshops that go with that. So that's just like tying it into the relevance. Or, we've got Plastic Free July. Could you run a whole series on, permaculture and zero waste during the month of July? So you can actually start to hashtag and get your word out in amongst all of that profile building activity. So another thing that I just want to talk about is how are you showing up? And this is where I think the importance of starting your marketing strategy or your communication strategy. You could do one of both of them, but I can't imagine how I could possibly do what I do in terms of letting people know about programs that I've got unless I have at least some of these things. So I really think in this kind of day and age, unless you have a really substantial network already that you can tap into, the social media one seems to be something. So you need to be working on that now, even before you've got your business, to be building your community. Who are you connecting with? What groups are you starting to be reaching into, to be engaging them, so you become visible in those. The reason for that too is you start to build a relationship. You start to hear what are the key questions that people are consistently asking about as well. And that might help you to actually be designing your program. So don't just put yourself out there on social media. Put yourself into the social media rooms where the kind of conversations are happening that you want to be part of and that you want to contribute to. So you can start to offer in suggestions and advice and feedback and your experience, and you can start to shape your voice in this space. And I think so showing up in that is important. So I don't suggest that you go in all of them. That would just drive you mad. But maybe you might, if you're doing more sort of the business side of things, maybe head towards LinkedIn. If you're into community-based things, maybe it's more Facebook, or if it's in the young group, you might be TikTok. Find where it is that you need to be in that space to be able to have the connections. I think a website is really important because it's kind of like your shop front. It's largely static, but it's where you can, this is me, this is my big vision, and this is what I offer. And everything should sort of point back to that. So if you're out in social media, you've got a link that, come find out more about what I'm doing over here. It's like everything points back to there. On your website, you should always have the possibilities of inviting people to sign up to be on your list. Now, I can't emphasize this enough. Actually having a list of people who are interested in you and what you offer, like they're not going to put their name down if they're not interested in you, not interested in something that you're sharing. So then you can start to have a conversation with them. Share out more of what you do, invite them to different workshops, ask them about what they'd like to learn. You start to build up that relationship. So the website and the email list are really important. This collaborators part, I think, is something, say, for example, if you're in Brisbane, a local city near me, who would be the groups that I would connect with there? So Northey Street City Farm, Brisbane Organic Growers. I have an ecology of collaborators that I showed up down at the Nambour Garden Show, which is the Queensland Garden Show. I'm going to be showing up at the Gold Coast Garden Festival soon. I show up at Northey Street City Farm. I show up at all these different local places because that's where I get to meet my community, my local organizations that are doing things that I do. And we get to learn and share and catch up. It's fun for me. It's a way of being connected and staying connected. But it's also a way of going, oh, you're doing that now. Oh, great. Well, we could collaborate on that. And it is that networking. It still is important. And it helps to keep you sparked. So put yourself in those collaborative spots that nourish you. Don't just go because you think, oh, I've got a network. Put yourself in places that is going to fill your cup and you feel like you can contribute back as well. I find blogs are really great because you can write lots of stories about different topics, and then you can share your blog out onto social media, and your blog sits on your website and can actually attract people into your list. So all these things are connected. So this is like a big dump here, but we can talk about this more as we go along. If you have the capacity to do a podcast, I think it's really good because what it does is you become sort of Daniela, like the go-to person. You invite people to your podcast who are doing the kind of things that you're interested in that will build up your knowledge and also your profile as the go-to person where all those people are having that chat. You could do simple podcasts. You could be on there by yourself and sharing out ideas. I know a friend of mine does one. She does marketing, ethical marketing. And so she gets on, she just does tips about that. And she doesn't have guests, she just does that. And if you want to do YouTube as well, so all of these things. So it's just that showing up digitally or showing up face to face, and being at event. Oh, the other thing with podcasts as well is you could pitch to be on someone else's podcast. You know, if you've got something really interesting on offer. All right, we're over time. I just want to mention a couple of other things. Just always check if you're starting to do your marketing strategies, to just check that, you know, oh, am I really sticking to these ethics? Because it's really easy to start getting drawn off into all these rabbit holes of marketing in different ways, but just keep coming back to this. So just, I've got 2 more pages. This one's about sort of those clear tips as a summary. So having a clear purpose, showing up, connecting, and really deeply caring, like putting yourself in places where you do actually care about it, and then you'll authentically just be in the right place. And it's really obvious if you are or you're not. Be relevant and relatable. So, you know, bring in the context that's relevant to that particular area, and bring yourself. Just be you, you know, like be relatable. When you're inviting people to come and be part of your programs, I just can't emphasize enough how important it is to have this sort of, think about it as a lovely invitation. You know, like, how are you inviting people to come and be part of something, rather than going, I'm offering this program and I think you should sign up. It's like, it's an invitation to come and be part of it. It's a flip in your mindset of how you're imagining this to be going out into the world, but it makes all the difference. Offer different paths of ways to engage. So maybe someone might really love what it is that you're doing, but they're not ready for it yet. Maybe they can't afford it yet, but they still want to be involved. What are maybe some other little micro steps along the way, or different ways they can engage, or different opportunities, like, you know, your fair share concept. And always just remember to have warm communication, even if someone sort of might flick off a quick email that sounds really rude. Don't flick an email off that's rude back. You just take a breath and imagine the possibilities of how you know, maybe they're having a bad day. Maybe they didn't really know you yet, but just give that an opportunity to actually let them to get to know you more. And like I said, just be real and be you. And just last things. So get to know who, this is your avatar. Who are the people that you think you really want to work with? Make sure you're clear on that. Have a go at writing your bio. Write your bio, either a short one, like maybe 50 words, or maybe a longer one, 150 words. Share them in Hive. Get people to have a look over them, give you some feedback on them. If you're wanting to get out and do some kind of, you know, either for your website or for socials, consider getting a professional photographer to come and work with you and get some really good photos. It's a good investment. Maybe you are a photographer, maybe you've got a friend who's a photographer, you do a trade, but it's worthwhile. Get your get your email list set up and start doing some community building. Create your digital presence, whether that be your website or a Facebook or something or other. Start having that presence and be consistent in how you show up in that. Start developing up a social media or marketing calendar. So for example, if you're going, okay, I'm going to open up a course in December, backcast to think about, okay, so by this point I need to have closed it off, and by this point I need to, so you just start from where it's opening and think back what you need to do to get the word out, all the different ways that you might share it. Start to think too about the places you need to share your work. If it's magazines, you need to give them 3-6 months more before. So that's why socials is so good, because print is such a long game. It's really valuable, but it is a long game. Find your collaborators. And if you're doing any of this kind of social media or putting stuff out, respond. If people are starting to comment on your work, be in there responding back to them. Be in the conversation. So they're my tuppence worth of ideas for marketing communication. I hope it's been helpful. I'm really glad that you're all here today. And I encourage you to keep asking questions about this kind of stuff in Hive, and we'll keep on exploring it in in various tutorials as well, because I think it's really important that we do find a way, if this is what you're wanting to be doing, to be creating a living or creating some kind of livelihood, whether it be for you or for a community group, that we really work on this and make it real. It's totally possible, totally doable. And I really want to say that, lean in if this is what you want to do. Like, I'm super passionate about supporting you to get to do this. So thank you everyone for being here. Ask questions in Hive, email me questions, support each other in doing this too, give each other feedback and ideas. And what I really want to encourage you to say too is, maybe I'm a bit silly, but I don't hold my ideas close to my heart. I let them out, because what I find is when I let the ideas out, they grow into something even better. Often when we feel like, oh, I've got this really special idea, I can't tell anyone because they might steal it. I think what we've talked about tonight or today is that you are unique, and how you do it is unique. And even if there's similar ideas floating around, it's going to land differently with different people with different visions and different approaches. And there are 8 billion people in the world. We need more of this. We need more of all of this. So let's lift each other up and amplify everyone's work. And then we're going to start, addressing together that big picture that we're all trying to work towards. Thank you everyone for being here. It's been lovely having your company, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. Bye.